Hi guys, thank you for joining me. Today I am going to be going over some of the fantasy books that I am completely and seriously ready to get into this coming year.
Sleigh bells ringing, diamonds blinging, carols singing.
So I hope the lighting is okay. I'm having to work with like a ring light type situation because here in South Carolina it is still so stormy and dark and just overcast, and I don't know about you guys, but when I'm filming with weather like this, it literally makes me look like I'm a cast member in Twilight. Like, my skin is so pale and it just looks like kind of bluish. So I'm trying a different kind of thing, different setup, so I hope that it's not like woo light on my face, you know, like a spotlight type thing, because that's not what I'm going for. But anyway, getting back to what we're actually here for, I have a lot of fantasy books that I have wanted to get to for a while now. Some of them I've had on my shelves for years and it's time for them to be read. There are some, you know, I have quite a bit of both adult and young adult that I want to get to, but I can feel the fantasy era wanting to come out of me, and I'm just ready to read fantasy. Honestly, I've had the hardest time choosing recently what I wanted to read, even though it's around the holidays. I want those fantasy vibes. I just feel like I haven't read fantasy in way too long, and as I'm pretty sure most of you guys know, that it is my favorite genre of all time. So I'm going to show you guys ones that I want to make a priority to getting to when I do get into my like fantasy era and want to, you know, just continuously read it. So I think to start off, I'm going to go ahead and do my young adult books that I want to get to, and I will talk a little bit about them and tell you what they're about, and then I'll go into the adult books. Now on it, obviously I have a lot of books on my shelves and there are plenty of fantasy books that I want to get to. I would go through each row like to tell you guys what I want to get to, but I don't want us to be here for hours on end and I don't want to put you guys through that. So we're going to go through the ones that I am like, these are the ones I'm definitely getting to when I have the time, and the other ones will be behind these. So let's just go ahead and get into these books. I also want to preface this by saying these are not in any order of like importance. They're just how I pulled them off the shelves. So to get started, the first one is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I'm honestly shocked that I haven't read this yet. It is a bit of a chunker, but I feel like most fantasy books are. This is just kind of a bigger book for a young adult fantasy, in my opinion. I also think part of the reason that I have refrained from reading this book for as long as I have is because it follows a guy main character named Laszlo, and I'm not very into reading from a guy's perspective. I guess I've just gotten used to reading from the like female protagonist I guess I've just gotten used to reading from the female protagonist perspective, so that one has kind of like held me back. But I know that Laszlo is an orphan and he's training to be like a librarian, and he is obsessed with this ancient lost city, and he is getting the chance to actually go and explore it, even though it's, you know, across the world and it's a dangerous journey. So he's getting that opportunity, and I know that he's, you know, he's a dreamer. And he's had this blue girl, don't know who she is, some blue girl like appears to him in his dreams, and he meets her, I think, either on the way to this city or at this city, and so he's, you know, trying to figure out who she is. But this book apparently contains like moths and love and mystery and like mythical, whimsical writing, and I know one of my good friends has liked this book before, so I'm excited to see if I like it. I also know that Lee Bardugo is one of the blurbs that are on the book, so that makes me even more excited, and I just feel like it's long overdue for how long this book has been out. Another one, I had picked up this book before and I bought it and I just haven't gotten to it, which is surprising because it looks right up my alley. But one of my friends, Megan, who also goes by the Ginger Hobbit on Instagram, which I will leave her link down below. She loves this book, and she would post like aesthetic pictures or things that remind her of this book, and it just made me want to read it even more. And it's definitely already added to my must-reads list for next year, and it is A Far Wilder Magic by Allison Saft. Can we just appreciate how gorgeous this looks? People like Ava Reed, Chloe Gong, and Amanda Foody have blurbed this book, and they are in love with it. Some of the words they use to describe it are tender, intimate, atmospheric, entrancing, innovative, intoxicating. What more do I need? I don't need to be convinced further. I just love it. So we're following Margaret, and there's this mythical creature known as a Hala, I think is how you say it, and there's only one, you know, that shows up or something. I don't know how it works exactly, but I know that there's like one left, and this hunt begins where you basically sign up and you take an alchemist and a person who can kill it. So Margaret's a sharpshooter, so she would be the one who could kill it. And they go out in teams of 2, and they try to hunt the beast, and whoever wins gets a magical ancient secret told to them, which sounds really cool. But in order for Margaret to sign up, she needs an alchemist in her corner. But that's where I'm guessing where this cutie comes from. So Weston is our guy character here. He is coming to Margaret's house to study under her father as an alchemist, because he keeps getting fired. I don't know if he's a bad alchemist. I just know that he's in training. And Margaret's like, look, dude, the only way you're staying here is if you go on this hunt with me to find this Hala. So I think this is supposed to be like a really intimate and like very tender love story in this dark, dreary world where they're in a hunt to try and find this, you know, this mythical creature and kill it. So I'm very excited to see what kind of imagery is set in this book, and I just think it's going to be so good. A lot of people have been telling me to get into this author. I've had a personal work friend that I used to work with who is obsessed with this author's adult series, and I have another friend, Jordan, who you guys know as Bookish Gem. She is obsessed with this particular series too, and it is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book in his Skyward trilogy. I think there are 3 of them. I don't normally do this, but this is one of the series that I bought all 3 in because I just had a feeling that I was going to like it. So this is set in a world where a lot of, I think, war goes on, and so you have these fighter pilots who are basically kind of like the military, I would say, for countries. They go out and they fight, and they're supposed to save their people and, you know, protect the world that they're living in. And so Spensa she wants to be a fighter pilot, and she wants to be that hero for the world, but she's had a bad past with her dad, or not, she hasn't had a bad past with her dad. Her dad had a bad past with the world as a fighter pilot. He ended up like abandoning his team or something and died because of it, and so she kind of is having a hard time getting into flight school and getting to fit in and follow her dream because of that. So I'm pretty sure in this book we're going to follow Spensa on a journey to try and get into flight school, and something happens where she ends up in a cave or something like that, and she finds something. So hopefully that's going to lead her to becoming her own hero. This cover is one of my favorites. This is A Magic Steeped in Poison by Judy Lin. All I know is that this has tea. Chinese mythology and tea. And I'm here for it. I just want you guys to see how beautiful this book is. And then when you open it, look at that. Look at that. And on the inside, there's a little teapot. Stop. I can't handle the cuteness. So our main character in this book is Ning. She brews tea. That's all I know. I don't know everything about Chinese mythology. I honestly don't know much at all. I feel like I know a good bit about Greek mythology, but other than Greek mythology, zip nada. I want to know more about other mythologies, but I'm trying to get in to, you know, into it all. But there are a lot of different mythologies for different cultures. But Ning brews tea, and she, you know, I think she used to love it, but it ended up she brewed poison tea. I don't think she knew, but she accidentally brewed poison tea and it killed her mother. And now it's apparently in danger of killing her sister as well. So she hears about this competition that goes on to find the best tea maker, and you get some prize answered to you, whatever you want kind of deal, and she is determined to be in this tea competition so that she can save her sister's life. And I love a good sister relationship, but you know, these people are cutthroat at this tea competition, and they are getting, you know, gruesome left and right. You wouldn't think a tea competition would be as gruesome as this one, but it does apparently get gruesome. And there's this handsome boy, but we find out, you know, Ning might be the one who needs the help herself because she might be in danger. But I'm just so excited to get to this one. I've heard nothing but good things, honestly. This is another book of whose cover I'm just obsessed with, and it's Belladonna by Adalyn Grace. Let's just take a moment. Look how pretty. But when you open it up, look at this. Look at this. I'm trying to like hide my face, but on the front it says, "It's said that 5 belladonna berries are all it takes to kill someone." Okay, sold. That's literally all it takes for me. So we're following Signa in this young adult novel, and she has been, you know, recently orphaned. And well, I wouldn't say recently. She's had multiple guardians take care of her, but they're all interested in the money that they're getting than they are of Signa. But she finds out she has some old relatives that she can go live with named the Hawthorns. But we can see where this is going to go. Anytime you find out you have like distant relatives that you can go live with, it's probably not going to turn out well. So Signa, this family, the dad is like mourning his wife by throwing some like ragers. The son's trying to, you know, figure everything out since the dad obviously doesn't care. And the daughter has some sickness that nobody knows about, but apparently the ghost of the mother comes to Signa and is like, "Yo, I was stabbed." Or I was killed. Like, I didn't die. I was murdered. And so Signa finds, I don't know where she found this. I guess she found the stable boy in the stables. But she enlists his help to try and figure out what actually happened to this mom. And, you know, she doesn't want to die. So she's trying to keep herself and others from dying as well. But I'm obsessed with this cover, and I have only read All the Stars and Teeth by Adalyn Grace, but I really like the way that she writes her characters, and her setting is really well, so I think this one is one that I am like highly anticipating. Also, wouldn't this be a cute picture where I'm just like, oh, that was actually cute. This one I'm actually shocked that I haven't read before, but I have accumulated these books in a very peculiar way. I am talking about The Diviners by Libba Bray. So, I did find this in hardcover. I had the second one in hardcover, and I was going to get rid of it because I had it for 2 years. I found it at a used bookstore for like $3, and I was like, I'll just hope that I come across the first one. It took me forever. Didn't come across the first one. I was like, forget it. I'm just going to unhaul it. I had it set in my Ready to Put on Pango Books app, and then literally not even like a week or two later, went to that same used bookstore and found this. The hardback of The Diviners, because if you try to order this on Amazon, it's like 40 bucks, but I got this one for $10, which I haven't looked at the inside, but look at that. So pretty. And now I think I have 1 through 3, so I'm only looking for that last one, and hopefully I can get it. I will literally order that one off of Amazon if I must, because there's no way I'm waiting like 2 and 3 years to read it. So this book is set in the 1920s, and we're following Evie, who has been kind of pushed out of her home and pushed out of her town, and it doesn't really go into detail why, so I don't know why, but she's sent to live with her uncle, and her uncle has an obsession with the occult, which I don't even know how I would respond to that if they're like, look, you're going with your uncle, but he has some issues. Let me explain that to you. So Evie is kind of scared because she thinks that her uncle's going to find out she has this power inside of her, and her power has just caused trouble, and she doesn't want that to happen again. But something happens where someone is murdered, and her uncle Will is called off to go and investigate, I guess. And Evie is thinking, you know what, this could actually be good, because maybe my power can be used for good other than bad. So, you know, Evie's going back and forth with this, trying to figure out who the murderer is of this girl. And there's a bunch of different people, different characters introduced doing different things in this book, which I'm guessing that's why they're going to be called the Diviners or something like that. But I really like the fact that it's like a fantasy set in the 1920s, and it also has some like horrific elements to it. So this one's going to be amazing. This is another one that I'm shocked that I haven't already picked up, just because it's right up my alley of the kind of books that I would like. But it is Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerri Maniscalco. I tried reading Stalking Jack the Ripper by her, which is a different series that she has, but I just wasn't in the mood for it at the time. But I do still have it because I want to pick it up at some point, because I've heard, you know, so many good things about it. But I have heard raving reviews on Kingdom of the Wicked, and I think the third book just came out, so I don't have to wait for any, which is a good thing. We're following this girl named Amelia. She has a twin sister, and they are witches who, you know, live in secret among regular people, as most witches in books do. And something happens where Amelia's sister turns up missing, but then Amelia finds her body, and her body is just like demolished, and it's gruesomely, you know, murdered. And I would just hate for that to, like, I can think about finding that, and that would just be terrible. But Amelia is determined to set out and find out who killed her sister, as most protagonists are. And she, you know, is determined, even if she has to use like dark magic to get to that, which we all know, if you're a witch, dark magic is a no-no. So she meets this guy named Wrath, and he is one of the princes of hell. And they call themselves the Wicked. So he says that he's on her side because he was sent to solve some of these murders, because I guess they weren't being done by them. So these people are like, who is killing people on our watch? But do we know if Wrath is on her side? No. Do we know that Wrath's not on her side? No. We don't know anything about Wrath, so give me a good enemies to lovers pull, you guys. I need it. Okay, moving on to the adult books that I want to get to. I'm going to go ahead and start. And all of these are first in a series. I did have some that I picked out that I wanted to read that are like sequels to books. Like one of the big ones is House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas in the Crescent City series. But you know, I think that's kind of a given that I'm going to get to that one. So I'm just going to go over books that are either standalones or first in a series. So again, here we go with books that I did not know if I was going to get to or not. And I don't even know for sure if this one is fantasy or if it just has like magical realism in it. But I want to get to The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I just love this cover. I really do. And I've heard mixed things about this one. I've heard back and forth reviews on it, and I know that the timeline is very confusing, so I'm hoping that's not going to be an issue. But it's just been, you know, on my radar since it came out, and I think it's time that I give it a chance. So it follows this circus, and this circus is like only shows up one day, one night, or it only shows up at night. I don't know if it just shows up on one day. I don't know if it shows up on one day or it just shows up when it wants to, and when it does show up, it's only open at night, which I think that's what it's going for. And it kind of gives me Caraval vibes with that, because it's not a circus, but you get circus vibes with Caraval, and I really like that aspect of it. And it's also a thing where it's not like everyone can participate or everyone can, you know, see it or know what it's about. But that's kind of, I think, what draws me to this one a little bit more now that I've read Caraval than before I did. So we have Celia and Marco, who are both magicians, and they've been training their whole lives to be magicians, and they are in a competition against each other, pretty much a who's the best of the best kind of competition. But the thing that they don't know is that only one person can come out of this competition. And I don't know if that means alive or with their magic or anything like that. I just know one person is coming out and they're falling in love with each other this entire time. And so that's probably only going to make it worse. But I'm just hoping it doesn't make me cry. I feel like I've said this about all of the books, but this one feels like it's been a long time coming, and the excitement I feel to get to this one is unmatched. And it is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. So many people love this book, but I've also heard some of my closest friends say they didn't really enjoy it or couldn't get into it, but I think that I'm gonna love it. So I know this book is set in London, and there are different types of London. So you have red London, black London, white London, and gray London. I don't remember. Red, white, black, and gray. Yeah, I was right. And you can only live in one. I know that much. You can only live in one London, basically. So if you live in red London, you do not go into gray or white or black London. You stay in red London, and that is it. And that's all you know. But you have these certain travelers who can go between the Londons delivering messages or, you know, preventing things from happening, stuff like that. And Kel is one of those travelers. So Kel is a red traveler. He's from red London, but he travels between the different Londons, and something happens where this girl like robs him or betrays him in some way, and so he's like running after her and things are going on. I think that he gets betrayed in another London. I'm not 100% sure. So there's a lot to unpack in this novel, but I feel like it's just what I want in a fantasy read. So I'm not gonna lie, this one I'm a little scared about, to be quite honest. And it's Babel by R.F. Kuang. This one, I think the reason I'm scared about it is because I know from like the Poppy War, which I have not read personally, but I know that it's more of a political thriller type of fantasy, and I'm just not into political fantasies or political thrillers kind of issues. So I am wondering if I'm gonna like this or not, but I'm still gonna give it a try no matter what. I got this in my Book of the Month box for December, so 100% gonna be trying it. So I know it's set in the 1800s in this world. Robin is who we're following. He is an orphan who was brought to Babel, which is a school for translation and magic, by this professor who took him in, and he trains in different languages, and there's, you know, magic working at this tower. This is where, you know, the best of the best go. It's like your Ivy League of fantasy schools. Robin is from China, and he was born in China, but he lives in Britain, and he attends Babel, which is in Britain, and stuff breaks out where Britain and China are in war with each other, and so it comes to a point where I think Robin feels like he is betraying his country by being at Babel, but he also feels like this is where he needs to be, and, you know, he's doing this big thing, but he doesn't want, you know, Britain to expand over China or anything like that. There's a lot going on in the book to unpack, but from what I've heard, it's very easy to keep up with, and it's also very well written with the atmosphere and the settings. So that, I think, is what's pulling me to this. I'm hoping it's that dark academia fantasy that I'm kind of wanting to explore. So we'll see if this does it for me. I feel like this one should have been a given. I feel like I should have already gotten to the next two, because it's probably, I feel like a lot of people are going to be like, are you serious? You have not read those? But the first one is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. This is the first book in the Scholomance series. I think this one is also more of a dark academia fantasy, which I have this one, Babel, and the Atlas 6, which are dark academia fantasies that I really want to get to and explore and see if that's kind of a vibe that I like to read, because why not? I seriously don't know much about this one. I kind of want to go into this one blind, but all I've heard before is this is kind of like a dark Harry Potter. And as you guys know, I'm reading Harry Potter right now, so I really want to get into this and see if that's what It is. I'll tell you a little bit from the blurbs on the back, from what people say. So the author of The Bear and the Nightingale, which is another one that I really want to get to, I'm just not going over that one, but that's one that I really want to get to. She said, "The Scholomance is the dark school of magic I've been waiting for, and its wise, witty, and monstrous heroine is one I'd happily follow anywhere, even into a school full of monsters." Kirsten White says, "It's eyeball-meltingly brilliant. Novik is quite simply a genius." Rory Power, who wrote Wilder Girls, which I love, says it is sharp, witty, and darkly evanescent. A Deadly Education is Naomi Novik's fresh take on the concept of the magic school. It's one of my favorite reads of the year. And Tamora Pierce, who wrote Tempests and Slaughter, said, "Friendship in spite of itself, danger that doesn't quit, what a wildly magical ride." That's all I need to know. That's it. That's all. And this is the last one, which again has always, or not always, but has been on my list for what feels like always. And it's been a long time coming, and I know a lot of people who have read this book are going to be happy that I'm finally getting to it. And it is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. Look how cute. I love it. Kind of gives me like Lemony Snicket vibes with the house and stuff, so I don't know if that's true, I'm just saying. Linus works in this magical youth program, I think, where he helps like troubled youth. He's 40 years old, he lives in this house with his cat, and you know, he lives a pretty quiet life, but of course that's got to change, especially in a fantasy novel. So he gets a call from this management, and they're like, "Linus, we need you to go out to this island, check out these 6 kids, and let us know if they're too dangerous to actually survive in our world." I would be like, why? How are you going to send out one of me for 6 kids that you don't even know if they can live here because they're dangerous? That just seems unfair to me. So Linus goes to this island. He meets Arthur, is he runs the orphanage for these kids, which I don't know if there are just 6 kids in this orphanage or there are like other kids besides the 6 that Linus is going for. But I think Linus and Arthur start to develop some feelings. We'll see. I don't 100% know. But Arthur is very protective of these kids, and he is determined to make sure that they live and make sure that they make it through the world, even if the world's not going to survive them. But those are all the books that I want to get to next year that are basically all fantasy series or books. I feel the fantasy coming back into my life. It's been gone. I don't feel like it's been gone, but it's been far and few between for me this year because I've been exploring other genres, which I'm really happy about, and I've really been enjoying them. I'm just ready to get back to my home, which are fantasy books. But I hope that you were able to find some that you were interested in, or any that might have not been on your radar are now finally on your radar. But again, thank you guys so much for joining me today, and I will see you guys in my next video.
They said, "Say Nick, what you got up in that bag?" I got racks in my sack or in my bag.